Hello and welcome to the Disclosure Dialogues. I'm your host, Lesley Klein, and tonight we're going to hear from three incredible UFO experiencers who will share their real contact stories tonight. But this dialogue goes beyond just our panelists tonight. It includes you, the audience. So please answer the polls that we'll put up throughout the evening tonight. Ask your questions and comment because this is a two-way conversation. So let me introduce to you our panelists. So our first panelist is Tom Luce. He is a singer, songwriter, and spiritual seeker who lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's been following and researching UFO and the UAP topic for over a decade, and he believes that UFO whistleblower protection may potentially open the door to a greater spiritual understanding of humanity for all. And here is Tom Luce. Tom,
Hi,
welcome to the
Lesley.
program. Hi.
Thank you. Great to be here.
You're welcome. Next, we have Sean Todorovich. He is an experiencer, a ufologist, and an everyday mystic. He's from Brooklyn, New York, a former New York City paramedic. He's a healthcare consultant and an activist. Please welcome Sean Todorovich. Welcome, Sean.
Hi, Lesley. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here. And finally, we've got Dr. Melanie Barton. She's a holistic psychotherapist, an experiencer, an author, and an ordained minister, and also a workshop leader. Please welcome Dr. Melanie Barton. Hi, Dr. Barton. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. So, tonight we're talking about experiencers, and I want to play a video that is from Matthew Brown. Matthew Brown is a whistleblower, and he did just start like a podcast and went for like 7 hours. He's a gamer as well, and he went for like 7 hours on Halloween. But I was able to get a little snippet where he talked about disclosure, about deep state disclosure. See, he's a whistleblower that actually lost, I think he lost his job and stuff because he did come out about it. And here he is.
The first thing is there a movement?
Yeah.
I think that is in the negative in the organized sense. You know, there is definitely the sentiment for a movement. There's people doing their own little corners, their own little, their own little efforts, but nothing has truly united people, not even in like an organizational way, but just in a ideological way to get people all on at least one same page, which is that, this needs to be forced to happen. We've had 3 hearings. I personally don't see much utility in having another right now. I think we got the answer that, whatever allies we might have on the House, they are going to be shut down both by their leadership, their unelected staffers that run their committees, which are not actually run by elected representatives. They are basically ran by a government service, if you will. And the roll calls for that are not transparent. But yeah, so whatever the House may get done, it's going to be blocked by themselves, and if anything squeaks out, the Senate will kill it. That's my read on things. Everyone last week, I think it was, I don't even know with time. Everyone last week was saying disclosure was dead. Carl Nell hopped on a call, I forget where, and said this cycle of disclosure is over, basically. Pack your bags, and we're going to figure out what's next. And to that I say, I didn't hear no bell. This doesn't stop. I made my choice. I drew my line in the sand, and I chose my team just because things are uncomfortable for certain segments. No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
What is dead is deep state disclosure. What is going to live is citizen-led disclosure. And
experiencers
citizens, right?
Yeah.
Experiencers, absolutely a big part of that. Yeah. But deep state disclosure is dead. don't want any more of that, they can go have their billionaire book clubs, have tea, and pretend that the world is getting better as it collapses around them, and then they can fuck off to their bunkers. That's how I think that the situation is.
So that's Matthew Brown speaking his truth, and he's been in the middle of it. I'm very grateful that he's come out. You guys have any reaction to what he just said? Go ahead, Sean.
As an experiencer since a very early age, I have to tell you, I've never really thought about disclosure at all, because for me, the mystery was not, do UFOs exist? It was really trying to understand what the mystery is trying to tell me. So I got into this movement very late in my life, even though I've been studying UFOs one way or another for 4 decades. And I want to just expand a little bit, because I see disclosure in 3 different realms. One is the government disclosure. The second is the people's disclosure, like Mr. Brown said. But the third one is the sort of the NHI disclosure, right? And I think there's a certain kind of natural tendency for people to think about disclosure being a worldwide collective event. But my experience has been that how much is disclosed to each individual is really based on the individual. And I think there's a lot of people already out there that are living in sort of a different reality, if you will, or a parallel reality. And so I think even when the government officially recognizes, for example, UFOs, I still think that for many people, they're going to resist that. But on an individual level, you can take that as far as you want. And I think that's sort of my relationship with the phenomenon. Of course, I would love to see it being recognized worldwide, but at the same time, it's not really necessary in that sense, because ultimately you as an individual have a lot to say about what your individual experience with the phenomenon is.
Thank you. Melody or Tom? Any feedback?
I think that what Sean says is very true. And I think that at the times that I imagine that disclosure has happened, so let's say that the truth about whatever the DOD knows is out there, I still think there's a secondary reaction that individuals will have. And that reaction, I think, will be unique to each person. But ultimately, I think the disclosure, or just the topic itself, it opens up people's minds to something that's greater than I think we've been taught, that a lot of people have probably experienced, and it really creates an opportunity for new things to come to individuals. I'll share more on that topic, when we get to sharing our stories. But I think disclosure is happening, but what happens after disclosure is going to be most important.
Yes, and we're going to talk more about that later in the show. Dr. Melanie, any feedback?
Yes, for me, I've been working with the Council of Eight since 2016, and they have kept me abreast of first going to be global disclosure back in about 2019, and let us know that wasn't going to work. And we were trying to get a protocol with the United Nations. They did not cooperate. So they let me know then, as the rest of our research group that works with the council, that it would be soft disclosure, one person, one group at a time. So they've instructed me to do the work that I'm doing with the Citizens for Disclosure, knowing well that I'm pushing against something that's probably not going to come out the way I want it to, but it's still my job to keep pushing. So that's what I do.
Okay, thank you. Now I've got a little poll to ask the audience, since all of you are experiencers. Now I will say what I am. I am not an experiencer yet, but I am definitely a believer. To me, there's plenty of evidence and plenty of people who have had experiences. But I do want to ask the viewers watching, what best describes you? Are you a believer? Are you an experiencer? Are you curious? Are you a skeptic? Or do you prefer not to answer? Which I guess you could just not answer. But put that number on the screen while we talk about close encounter contact of there are several different kinds from 1 through 5. And I wanted to share with you, this is something that astrophysicist J. Allen Hynek created or talked about CE5, CE1, CE2, and CE3. And it was in his book called The UFO Experience back in 1972. Then later, CE4 and CE5 contact was described, and I'm going to talk about those, give you the definition for those. I do want to share that Zachary is saying, yes, we all have to keep pushing and conversing with our friends, families, and neighbors. So again, viewers, as you comment, I can put the comments on the screen because this is meant to be a dialogue between all of us. So let's talk about CE1, which means a close visual encounter, a close visual sighting of a UFO. The witness sees an unidentified flying object, a UFO, now also known as UAP, meaning unidentified anomalous phenomena. So they see a UFO at a relatively close range, usually around within 500 feet or 150 meters. And it shows discernible details like the shape, the surface features, but there's no interaction with either the environment or the witness. So that's the CE1, close visual encounter of a UFO. Now, CE2 is where you have a UFO sighting, but there are some physical effects. So the UFO is observed and there's some physical effect associated. For example, marks on the ground, scorched vegetation, interference with electronics or vehicles, and physiological reactions in the witness, like heat or paralysis. So that's the CE2. CE3 is where there's a UFO sighting and visible occupants or entities. So you're seeing the entities in the UFO either in or near it. So in addition to the UFO sighting, the witness observes animate beings, entities, humanoids, non-human life forms, either inside or near the UFO craft. Then the fourth one is CE4. It's abduction and involuntary human interaction. So beyond just a sighting, the human is alleged to have been abducted by the UFO or its occupants, removed from their environment, and sometimes subjected to examination. This category is not part of Hynek's original 3-level scale, but it's used widely in UFO abduction literature. And the fifth one is CE5, human-initiated contact and communication with ETs. So this is the most interactive level, where humans consciously attempt communication or make contact with extraterrestrial intelligences, often through meditation, signaling, or telepathic protocols. So it's often described as direct conscious interaction or communication with the ETs. And the CE5 is something that, if you've heard of Dr. Stephen Greer, he has a CE5 app that you can actually use. You just download it on your phone, and it's like $10. But you have that. It's got meditations and signals that send out to the ETs to call them in. So that's a great tool that I have on my phone, but I haven't used yet because I'll be honest, I'm a little chicken to do it by myself, but I'm getting over that. We have some comments. Okay, so Zach is a believer and an observer. Very good. And Eric Eisenman is an experiencer, precognition mostly, 360-degree vision, 4 consecutive days of sleep paralysis, no NHI contact that I know of. So those are some comments there. So let's now get into our different experiences. So I'm going to, let me have one more comment here. that Mexican 444 said, I had no idea there was a CE3. Well, you've heard of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That movie was actually a CE. That's where Close Encounters of the Third Kind comes from the CE. And I think Dr. Hynek was actually what do they call it? He was in the movie. Cameo, that's it. Thank you. All right, thanks. Okay, so Tom, let's have you talk about your experience.
Okay. And well, my experience really happened about two years ago. But prior to that, just as a young child, I had unique experiences that I don't think I could put into a category. But it was sort of in and out of dream states and experiencing different beings. So the problem with the dream state is that you don't really know, is it a dream? But there were times when I would wake up and I'd be interacting with a being, and then I'd be standing where the dream was occurring. It was as if I had moved into my living room. So and then getting older, I had experiences at one point in Los Angeles. My wife and I were on a deck, and we saw two small, probably I think about like the size of a pencil tip, two lights moving across the water's edge, probably about 10 miles away. This was looking out over the Santa Monica Pier at the horizon, and these two dots started crisscrossing. So we knew that there was something going on there. But really my experience, which is a CE1 experience, happened, like I said, about 2 years ago. And I had just started digging into a channeling book. So it was a book of some channeling that occurred. And I won't get too far into that side of it because that might be Melanie's experience there. But in the book, there was some questions about, so somebody was channeling an entity, and the question came up, do entities interact with humans, and how do they interact? And so I had read early in the book, and I had forgotten about that one of the ways this entity that was being channeled stated that they interact with humans was through thought forms. So it's something that you would see that is being somehow created by the entity using, I think, your physical apparatus. And so you have an experience. So here's what happened. My wife and I, who's I would say she's more skeptical about the topic, although I'm sort of getting her a little bit more to become a believer. And we had gone to it was a Christmas fair, and we walked to the fair. It was at night. It was probably about 7 o'clock at night. And it was pretty crowded. We had gotten in line, which is probably about, I'm guessing it was probably around 8:30 at night. So it was dark. We got in line, and we were waiting in a pretty long line. There were probably about 50 people in front of us, and the fair had about probably 500 to 1,000 people. So as we were standing in this line, my wife looked up in the sky, and she said to me, "What is that?" And when I looked up, I saw two crafts that were next to each other, and they were coming in and out of the fog. And so the first thing my wife said, she says, "Are those balloons?" And I knew that they couldn't be balloons because they looked like, a caged structure, a sophisticated sort of black matte cage structure. And then inside both of them, sort of towards the back, was like a colorful, I would say an octagon shaped, it was an octagon, but it was, sort of like a ball that was turning, but changing colors at the same time. Now, the way that we saw these, and so I asked AI I tried to give a description, and I said, I tried to describe it, and this is what came up. Now, I would say that that's kind of similar to it. It wasn't that shape. It was a little bit more of like a if you kind of compress that down, that was what we saw. And like there is like maybe we take a look at that other video that we have, because that one, I think the shape, yeah. So that was more the shape. The only difference is that that was not how the interior looked, but basically the structure of these things were very close to that. And so as we were watching them, you know, the interesting thing about it is that we could see it just enough to understand that we were seeing something, but we couldn't see it so that it was obvious as to what it was. Now, the strange thing is my wife, who's a total non-believer, like I said, and like I said, she's getting there, but she was the one that saw that, and I saw that, but no one else was looking, and no one else was noticing what we were seeing. And so that's why I initially started out my story talking about thought forms, because as I reflect upon it now, I think what my experience probably was probably an entity sort of sharing that view with me, that vision with us, because we were just really getting to the height of our, I would say, awakening stage. And for me, the awakening stage is when you really start to believe, okay, there's more to all of this than I've previously known, and that comes along with like understanding UFOs, but it also really breaks into a whole nother realm of sort of metaphysics and spirituality and those kind of things. But that was my experience, and it really changed the both of us, and yeah, so that was that.
Thank you. Melanie or Sean, do you have any feedback for Tom or any response to his experience?
Well, yes. My experiences actually started with lucid dreaming when I was very young. And I would, in the middle of a dream, it would just change completely in character. And there was usually some kind of a tone associated with it that was very dramatic. It was almost like when you're going to see an orchestra play, and then they do that tuning thing at the beginning where everybody plays the same note. But it was something like that, and then it would become a lucid dream, and then I would usually see some kind of a vision of a UFO. Sometimes I would see symbols, other things. But this idea of them communicating with thought patterns is absolutely right on, because these beings are telepathic and they do not communicate the way we communicate at all. Yeah. Language, the way we speak, would be for them extremely inefficient, I guess it would be a word, because we share so little with our words. When they communicate, well, technically what they're doing is they're sort of merging minds. And so they can experience each other's thoughts, feelings, and deeper stuff as well. So it's not just communication like we think of it, like, I say a few words and then you interpret the words. It's a completely different basis for communication. Telepathy is much more deeper and interesting than we make it. It's not just kind of a mental email system. So a lot of the information that comes across is not verbal. I mean, I don't recall actually ever getting any verbal information. Mostly it's complex audio visuals. And then I have to sort of integrate that and figure out what all that means. So yeah, so this idea of communicating with NHIs on a thought pattern is absolutely spot on, and I think virtually every experiencer has some kind of relationship with that kind of experience with the telepathic contact that is much deeper and richer than we're used to.
Yeah.
Got it. Dr. Melanie, I know you've many of your clients are experiencers too, and some abductee cases and things. Do you have any feedback to give, Tom, or
Sure.
anything you'd like to add?
Yes, my experience is that we've probably been programmed from the time we were little to make the contact, and that as we get ready for more differential levels, then we're going to have different experiences. But I also believe that if a lie detector test was given to your wife and to you, you both passed, but you would have experienced something different. And for me, when they start giving me information, it comes in bits and pieces, just like you were both saying. And I keep a journal because they might give me an image, and then I will make a picture as best my artistic inabilities are to write that up. And then I will go back later and look at it. And sometimes they'll give me numbers or a formula. And at one time they gave me a formula that said T equals 1 squared. And I asked them, I said, excuse me? And it took months for me to finally, and they said, 1 times 1 is 1. We are all 1. 1 is still 1. And so it's like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
over time, I've learned to trust that I may not understand it at the moment, just like when I do the research with walkie-talkies, but I have to be patient. And if I miss something, the counsel is very clear, and my guides are very clear. They'll give me a high-pitched squeal in my right ear.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to give you a message. It's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Preoccupied. I was seeing a client. And so I've learned over time to kind of laugh and go with the flow and go, okay, I don't understand what you're telling me, but there's more I can tell about that later.
Well, that's great. And I'll just respond quickly because I 2 things. I do get the high pitched in my ear too, and to me that means I always anticipate. I mean, I always assume that is like a communication, that whatever my thoughts are, whatever I'm thinking about, that it's a positive thing. It's it's something that, and if I get it in my left ear, then I kind of think, okay, maybe that's not the way to go. And then the other thing is exactly what you said, because I asked my wife at dinner tonight. I said, so when we had that experience, what did you see? And I think her description of the cage part was similar, but inside she said it was like the outside of a bubble that sort of is translucent and shifts colors. And so that was totally different what I saw. So yeah, but thank you both for that.
And do either of you have implants? Because I have two.
No.
Well, I can't confirm, but when I was younger, when I was a teenager, when I started having the more profound experiences, I did have something planted in the back of my head, which I knew was not natural. It was like a protrusion. And so that I just self-identified as a plant, but I've never had it confirmed by an X-ray or anything like that.
The doctor that he could feel it, he could touch it. He said, I got to X-ray it. I said, okay. Nothing showed up on the X-ray. He said, it's there. I can feel it. I know it's there.
Wow. Yeah.
So, Dr. Melody, what do you think the implant is for?
I asked the counsel about that, and one of them was removed. They said that it's a different race, different species that are trying to follow me, track me, and that I can request not do that. So I did, and one was removed, but the other one's still there. So I don't know. I haven't tried to have the other one removed because I kind of feel like it's been with me for like 10 years. So if it's going to do anything, I don't get like a sharp pain or something. I can go into this later, but I do have the symptoms of Havana syndrome, and I have discussed this with Danny and Sarah and with a military person, and it's real, the effects that they can have on me if they don't like what I'm saying. So I get into conspiracy theories, but if you want more about that, I can talk about it.
Okay. When we get into your story more, maybe we can have you talk about that more. Sean, so what do you think that the implant is there for? But since you're able to communicate with them, did you ever ask, or did this happen after a certain event that you had with them?
Well, I would say communicate is a strong word. I feel in many ways that, like Melanie said, is that their form of communication is so advanced that we get tidbits and bits, and we sort of struggle to unravel its little mysteries. I don't recall ever having any of my questions directly answered. More, I was inspired to follow certain paths, let's say. In terms of the implant itself, I never found out what it's actually for, and frankly, to me, it didn't really matter because I understood when I was young. I understood this relationship to be a kind of a teacher, mentor, parent, child type of relationship. So I was kind of going along with the flow and just trying to understand how to integrate all this into my life. And because throughout my life, I've had a lot of paranormal experiences, and the implant is just one thing, and I know that sounds a little bit nutty, but the truth is, once you sort of dive into this world, the paranormal becomes very normal. And so the implant itself was actually one of the less interesting things that I came across. But what I will say is that I guess I'll tie it back to disclosure. There was a point where I was very much intent on trying to disclose my experiences, and I thought, what I should do is I should go public. And then what happened was kind of textbook NHI, right? So I had an experience shortly afterwards, a few days afterwards, something like that. And I woke up in the middle of the night, and I had these subdermal hematomas all over my body, but they were not like blunt instrument hematomas. They looked like geometric objects, triangles, squares, whatever shape. There was nothing on the surface of the skin. It was entirely subdermal. There was no pain. And it was as if it sort of had like a tattoo quality, a kind of a subdermal micro lesions that were shaped into these geometric shapes. So, and I thought, oh, well, this, what I'm going to do? I'm going to take pictures, and, I'm going to catalog all this, and I'm going to go public. And so I had the pictures developed, and I put the pictures in my drawer, and I came back later that day, and I opened my drawer, and all the pictures were torn to shreds, every single one of them. And they were still there. They were all still there, but they were all torn into tiny little pieces, as if by some kind of a non-human force. And to me, the message was pretty clear, which was that the relationship between us and NHI is we tend to anthropomorphize this relationship and try to think of it as just, well, they're just beings who happen to be more intelligent or more advanced, but they're actually beings that are fundamentally different in how they experience reality versus how we experience reality. What we think is important, what they think is important, what they think is appropriate, or we think is appropriate, are sometimes very different. And so I learned that when you have this kind of a relationship, it's very intimate in many ways. The feeling I got was that it's not about me pursuing my own individual drives with this, is what I want to accomplish, but it was more of a message of teamwork, such as well, look, there's a team here. There's a big plan. There's a lot of things going on, and you need to learn how to be on the team. And this is something that I guess it's more difficult for regular people to understand, is just how intimate this experience is. And it's not about being it's absorbing yourself into a much larger cosmos that is populated with a whole kaleidoscope of beings. But this sense of team, the sense of family, is something how I learned how to approach this, and not to be so, I guess, narrow-minded and self-centered as I was when I was younger, when I just wanted answers. And so I know that's kind of a long-winded answer, but I think it's important because we have we're used to behaving a certain way because we're on this planet that's not telepathic, that's not very communal. And when you deal with beings that are very telepathic, very intimate, very communal, one of the first things you learn how to do is to actually be part of a larger community.
Interesting. So can you tell us what year it was that you got those hematomas and where they tore up the pictures? When was that?
So that was about when I was just about 18. So that would be like 1991-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're saying that you're working with a team. Do you know what species they are, what civilization they come, or what star system they come from?
No.
Do you have names for them?
No. So if I can reference Whitley Strieber, who talked about the secret school, it was very much that kind of an experience. And when I say secret school, I mean it's secret even to myself, right? And the reason for that, as frustrating as that is, the reason for that is that this local consciousness can only process so much at a time. And if they were to simply expose me to the larger reality, it would have tremendous psychological and physical impact. And so what they do is they carefully curate that kind of experience and put it in doses that you can handle. So that means that I don't really have a tremendous amount of detail. I have a lot of bits and pieces, a lot of jigsaw puzzle pieces that I can talk about. But in general, it seems to me that there is this kind of a secondary consciousness, if you will, that is above this consciousness, that is interacting with them more directly. But for you to consciously be aware of that, it requires more on our local parts.
Okay. So how often do you communicate with them?
So I used to have, when I was young, I used to have quite frequent experiences. But then as I got a little bit older, they started getting a bit further between. So maybe once or twice a year, something on that kind of a schedule. And it's one of those things where it's coming, right? So the before that experience happens, there's always a type of physical sensation that I get, and when I know that they are in my presence, they just simply, I can feel it. It's like I know they're seeing me, I know they're watching me, and I know they're going to come, and that sort of puts my mind at ease, because when I was younger, I went through the same stage as many abductees, which is, there was a lot of fear associated initially with these experiences. But over time, I've learned, sort of, we develop, again, this kind of relationship where they sort of tell me, hey, listen, we're here, we're coming, everything's fine. And then I can sort of prepare myself and relax into it, as opposed to waking up in the middle of the night, freaking out.
Do these experiences happen mostly at night when you're in bed, or have they happened during the day too? Or
Yeah, it can be any time of day, but it's usually when I'm alone. Except when I'm sleeping, then it doesn't matter because they could be in my room and everybody else is going to be sound asleep and nobody's going to know anything.
Can you see them? Can you see them?
Most of the time, no. What I do is I feel them, but when I try to see them, and I've tried consciously to see them, it never materializes. The sight never materializes. So, but again, I've sort of, like Melanie said, you learn how to go with the flow. So if for whatever reason they don't want you to see them, that's fine. It's not a problem.
Do you have names for them?
No, I don't have names for them. And I can't even tell you how many are involved. I have seen snippets of different races, but I don't know to what extent and how they collaborate. The only ones that I know, I guess, better than others are these shorter dwarf-like creatures, and they are about 4 feet tall, and they're very friendly, and they gave me this really interesting experience where one put his forehead to my forehead, and I was able to feel exactly how he felt in that moment, and it was this incredible. We can't describe it because this is a psychic phenomenon. So I'm only doing my best with words. But basically, there was such a tremendous feeling of peace, relaxation, and it was one of those things that you feel it for an instant, and the impression lasts a lifetime. Because we as humans in our local cells, it's very difficult to experience something like that in your daily life. But once you experience it, you can't go back. It's something that stays with you.
Would you say that you feel love from them, the emotion of love?
Yeah, but as again, I think our definition of love is very much primitive compared to theirs. I think they understand love at a much higher level, meaning that love is not just, for example, in the example I just gave you, they can project that love, which is we can't, right? So, I can't project to you right now that love I have. And I think it's because, again, this is a telepathic thing, right? So that experience being natively telepathic is much deeper and richer than anything that we call love here on this planet.
Okay. All right. Well, I do want to get into Dr. Melanie's story, which is very intense. But Sean, do you want to describe any specific instance, either maybe the most recent encounter with them, or
Okay.
anything that you would like to share, like a specific story?
Yeah. So I went my whole life having these experiences, but I never actually saw a UFO, and I thought that was kind of funny. Because I think I've been inside of many UFOs. I've just never seen one on the outside. And so finally, last year, it actually happened where I was doing a morning jog along this shore. And it was early in the morning, hardly anybody there. And there was these 5 really bright globes that looked like they were stuck to each other. And the brightness was just intense, and it was a white light. It's not a light that you would normally see, except if you go to like a football game or something and you stare at those giant lights they have over the stadium. But I saw them, and I was about, I don't know, at least 500 meters away, but they were, I would say, estimate about a couple hundred meters off ground, right next to a very large building. And the weird thing was that this super bright light, which I was perceiving, did not reflect off the building at all. And when I saw it, I was just mesmerized by it. And I said, you know what? I need to get closer. I want to see what's, maybe I can get a picture of it or something. And I started walking hastily towards it. And then I didn't get very far. And then it just vanished. And the lights were just simply gone. And I'm not even, my understanding is that I'm not even sure that those were necessarily visible lights to anybody else. And this is because lights that bright should have left very much a bright spot on that building. That's just simple physics. So the way these lights were directed directly at me doesn't make any physical sense. So, and the fact that when I looked around, it doesn't seem to be anybody who was looking up, indicated to me that it's very possible that these lights were just intended for me to see and nobody else.
Interesting. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Dr. Melanie, it's your turn. I know your stories is in books, and there's a documentary coming out, and I'd love to have you share with us your experience with your ET or NHI, non-human intelligence team of people.
Okay. So mine is intertwined between ETs, angelic, spirit. I've had psychic abilities since a young child. My mother did, her mother did, my daughter does, my grandson does. So many generations. But mine started when I was a young child. I was sick a lot. And I now understand why I was sick a lot. But as a young child, I was in bed because I was so fatigued and ill. And I had an ET friend that stayed with me. And Robbie stayed with me till I went to kindergarten. And me one day, go. And I said, well, why did you go? He said, because you're going to school now. And I said, but you can go to school with me. He says, no, I can't. I said, why not? He said, because your teacher wouldn't understand. Well, why wouldn't she? You're my friend. He said, because she can't see me. Oh, okay. So he said, I'm going to go away. You'll forget about me, but it'll be okay. And others will come to guide you. And I went, okay. And I did forget about him until I was 8. And we moved into a haunted house that had been a doctor's office. And I could see the spirit of a young boy on the roof who was, I didn't know then he was dead, but he scared me because he could see me and I could see him. And he was lost. And so in my bedroom, there was a wardrobe. In the wardrobe lived a Native American chief. And so I was scared to death to go upstairs and say to my parents, please, please, please stay with me till I go to sleep. This is ridiculous. You are 8 years old. You can go upstairs by yourself. No, 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 there's something up there. There is nothing up there. It is your imagination. So finally, I got brave one night and I said, why are you here? And what is your name? And he said, my name is Big Chief. And I'm here to guide you. And I said, why do I, an 8-year-old, need guidance? He said, you won't understand, but I'll come back, or someone else will come back later. I said, well, just go away. So he did. And then another being came when I was in 11th grade, and that one scared me too. And then another one came after I graduated and told me, stood at the end of my bed and said, you are to go to Rochester, New York. I said, I don't want to go to Rochester, New York. There's people there I don't want to be around. And they just said, you will go. Well, within 48 hours, I dropped out of college and I moved to Rochester, New York. So we move ahead. I get married and I'm sick still throughout the marriage. And in 1991, February 26th, I had a near-death experience under surgical procedure. When I had death experience, they took me to the place where there's a tunnel. And who greeted me at the tunnel but my son that I miscarried when I was 4 months along. His name is Mitchell. I knew exactly who he was. He knew who I was. He said, hi, Mom, it's me. I said, Mitchell, what are you doing here? And he said, it's okay, Mom. I'm the age I would have been had I lived. And I said, oh my gosh. And I wanted to hug him and hold him. And he said, Mom, come on. I want you to meet the others. I said, I want to hold you. He said, come on, Mom. It's time to meet the others. So we got in a little blue rowboat. I sat in the back. He stood up and paddled across the water. We go across the water. When I get there, there's my maternal grandmother. There's that died of a brain injury. There's Judy Gillette, who died hit by a car. There is Robbie, my ET friend, Native American chief. And I said, oh my gosh, you're all here. You look so good. Can I stay? And they said, no, because that was my second experience. The first one was in 1980 when I was stung by 4 bees. I started to leave my body, glimpse of the place. And they said, no, you have to come back, but go back. But there's a reason we brought you here. And I said, why is that? They said, well, there's things you're supposed to do, and we've got to direct you. So we're going to show you what's coming, but you won't remember till it happens. I said, okay. Then they took me to it was not a room, but a space. And they said, this is God. This is the creator. And it was all like electricity, all different colors, all over the place. You could feel the energy. And they said, we are all one. We are all connected. What you do, what everyone does affects the whole. I said, okay. Now remember, I was a minister, and this was nothing to do with what I'd been trained. It did not fit at all. And I said, now we're going to tell you why you have to go back. I said, okay. They said, you have to go back and love the people who feel unlovable till they can love themselves. And that includes your mom, because my mom was raised by strangers because her parents had mental health issues. So I said, okay. And they said, the second thing is that we are going to send people to you. They won't know we've sent them, but you are to recognize it's a gift we're sending to you. And you're to open that gift and to bring to the outside what's trapped inside. I said, okay. And then I was back in my body. But I was not the person I was when I left. I had all kinds of psychic abilities. I was able to connect with deceased people, with my guides, and to have a knowing of what I was supposed to do. And when things would happen, they'd go, we showed you this. So a series of events happened. I opened up a holistic healing center within 3 months of them showing up in a spirit form and telling me to do that. And then I had another encounter where they took me out of my body and said, we're going to give you an opportunity to make a spiritual leap, to make a vibrational frequency upgrade. But if you make this step, you can't go back. And I said, okay. So I did. And when I came back, I was different again. It was like another slice of me that came back. And my spouse at the time knew something was different and was very angry. And as a result of me not following their guidance, I was thwarted from 1992 till I finally left that marriage in 2009. And the way I left that marriage was to finally have cancer. So I look at cancer as a gift to me, that it was a way out to finally do what they wanted me to do. So I got married 4 years later, and that husband died after a year. And I began to have visits. I had 2 beings show up. One was a 7-foot tall Arcturian. The other was a 3-foot gray. And they woke me up and I said, oh, hello, what are you doing? Because it wasn't foreign to me to see them. And they said, we're working on your bladder that has caused you problems. So go back to sleep, you'll be okay. When I woke up in the morning, there were 3 finger marks on each of my thighs, bruises. My eyes, the pupils were all black, and I had a red mark on my forehead, and I had a headache, but they cured my bladder illness. And so then I got in touch with MUFON and got connected with Denise Stoner and with Kathleen Marden. And from there, I met Kevin Briggs, and we began researching his experience working with the Council of 8. We got introduced to the Council of 8. They began to work with me, and they gave assignments to each of us of what we were to do. And Sheva, Sheeva, she is the right hand to Ra, R-A, who is the watcher over the council. And she showed up in my bedroom one night, and she said, you are my daughter. You're not like a daughter. You are my daughter. You made the agreement to come here to do this work. I'm here to guide you. I will be with you, but you are to do as we instruct you. And so from that day forward, that was in 2017, I followed the instructions and here I am.
Wow. Now, I do have a picture of the Council of Eight. So go ahead and tell us about these different NHI. I see that you've got Ra there, and I know Ra, I think, is a Egyptian god, maybe, but that is different than this Ra, right?
Different than this Ra. This Ra is a spiritual being. He's in the 9th dimension. He's been out of body for centuries. And then Ort and Dee are the couple, the married couple that introduced themselves to Kevin when he was 8 years old. Zark, spelled J-A-R-K, he's the trickster, he's a scientist. He likes to play tricks on people. He likes to take one of my earrings. I'll lay him out on the bed to go take my shower and come back, and one will be missing. And I go, come on, Zark, where is it? And he'll tell me telepathically, it's just a material thing. You don't really need that. That's not what's important. I said, Zark, that was my mom's. It's important. Bring it back. So I might find it out in the kitchen, on the floor, in my car, in the ashtray, different places. So next we've got Orla and Arna. They are different species. And I think Orla is a tall white, and Chica is a praying mantis, and then Targ is another gray. And they each have their own special function, their own special thing that they do. And I can communicate with them at will at any time. And it's just like the channel's always open. They may not answer me right away, and they laugh at me. They say, you know, we have other people we talk to besides just you. So you have to learn to be a little bit more patient. And I'm very inquisitive, and I say to them, I am a researcher. I am a scientific person. I need documentation. So one of the times that Kevin was channeling Ra, I said, how come we can't see you? I want proof. So Kevin's body stood up, and this booming voice came through and said, is this enough proof for you? And the whole room shook. I was sweating. My temperature went up. You could feel the vibration. I said, yes, thank you. So I didn't question him again.
Wow. So in the book, Forbidden Knowledge by Kathleen Marden. Now, explain to us who Kathleen Marden is in terms of, I think, the niece of Bill and Barney Hill.
And Barney and Betty Hill.
I'm sorry.
Couple that was abducted in September 1961, the interracial couple from New Hampshire. And she is their niece.
Okay. And in this book, well, she was one of the council, you say, of 4 Earth people or humans, right? That work with this Council of 8.
Right. We called ourselves the 4 Musketeers. We were the Council of 4. It's Kathleen Marden, Denise Stoner, myself, and Kevin Briggs, and also his wife, Sandy, would be our transcriber. And she helped with the logistics of us taping everything and filming things. So she was part of it too.
And in the book there, I was reading that Ra is, like you said, 9th dimensional, but he's an Anunnaki watcher and the leader of the council. He's pure consciousness, has not had a physical body in thousands of years. And according to the Sumerian tablets, the Anunnaki were angels or gods of the sky. These technologically advanced beings lived on Earth around 8200 BC. And the Anunnaki goddess asked the Council of 7, I guess, to create the humans, Earth.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. And then Ort is a kind, tall, human-like Arcturian educator. His wife is Dee, and they're Arcturian. So Dee and Ort are they're Arcturians. And then Zark, he's a 5-foot tall, friendly Zeta. So I guess that's from Zeta Reticuli. Is that the right galaxy or star? Okay. And he's the one with the sense of humor that steals your earrings. Then Chica, she is the female?
I don't know. I can't remember I don't know whether she is non-gender. I don't remember.
Okay. So she's the tall humanoid mantid.
Mhm.
She's very friendly demeanor. Orla is a tall white. What is Arna?
I don't know what species she's is. To me, it looks avian,
Oh,
bird-like.
blue avian. Okay, and then Targ, is he just a uh, tall gray?
My
Maybe?
Yes, yeah. He doesn't talk much to me. He does to some other people I work with, but the one that I most communicate with is Shiva. And I have a picture of what Shiva looks like to me on one of my videos. And I don't know if you have that video, but
No, I wasn't able to find her picture, but yeah, I'm just happy that we have these pictures. So that's really cool.
if you
All
look at
right.
my normal video, I can send it to you that I have a picture of what she looks like to me. She looks like an angel that has iridescent blue gown on. Her wings are like bird feathers, how I see her, but she appears differently to different people. She hasn't been physical form.
Okay. Tom and Sean, do you have any questions for Dr. Melanie regarding what she just shared?
I don't have a question, but I do want to affirm this idea of having a purpose, sort of a mission, a service towards others, which is very common. And again, this goes back to that comment I made about there being a much larger community and learning how to be community oriented, right? And which is a little bit more difficult with people that you don't readily see and interact with like you would with a normal person. But that idea has definitely come across numerous times where most of my time, I've been learning how to just be more of service to other people, not by so much what I'm doing. It's not the same as necessarily, I need to go volunteer at the Salvation Army or something. Not in that sense, but in a sense of my who I am, in terms of my presence, in terms of my vibration. That's the key part, right? Is how to, and I've done, some really kind of amazing work in that sense. Is because when I was younger, I tended to be much more driven by ideology and saying like, well, this is right, so then we're going to do this and so forth and so forth. And one of the things I learned over time through these experiences was uh, how to indirectly steer events and people without appearing offensive or to rob them of their agency, if you will, right? So because it's, when you say be of service, most people have a very traditional view of what that means. But it's only been as I got older and much wiser that I understood that being of service is a lot about who you are and not what you do.
Thank you. Tom, did you have any comments?
Well, I thought Melanie, your story was amazing and very special and unique, and I appreciate you sharing that. And Sean, I absolutely align to what you're speaking to as far as it, being service to others. And I think the alternative to that is being service to yourself, which is more about controlling and manipulating people. I think, um, and so I don't need to talk about that, but I think when it comes to service to others, yeah, it's really about respecting people's free will and loving them. And I think it's the intention that matters. When you share your love and you support people, if you don't get the response, that just happens. Sometimes you get a response, but really I think it's our intention that matters. And so for me, the big picture of all of this and what we've all shared is it's an understanding that we're probably spiritual beings having a human experience versus humans having a spiritual experience. I know you've probably heard that said before, but it resonates with me. And so it's an evolution, I think, a spiritual evolution, and we're here to do things. And sometimes we have to be reminded, like, I think we're all kind of maybe getting nudges to some degree that we have things here to do. And maybe it's just to raise the vibration of the planet, or to share love, or to smile at a stranger. But I think all those things are very, very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're all, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I just
Sean.
want to add that one of the things that came across also is just the significance of the insignificant, if you will. How, let's say, your demeanor let's say you go to a grocery store, and you come across some person that's having a bad day or something, and how much your reaction to that really matters. And not because you're going to necessarily change that person's world, but how that person and your reaction to it is going to change you, right? Because it's your reaction to that which says a lot about you. And it doesn't really necessarily translate like, oh, I'm going to help this person in any kind of way. But what you put out matters. And it doesn't matter what you put it out to. Like I said, it could be the most inane, insignificant thing. It doesn't matter. You put it out there, it's coming back, right? So that's something that's really been challenging to implement in the kind of, because we have this automatic thought patterns that tell us like, oh, that doesn't matter, oh, it's just a person on the street, it doesn't matter, and in a crazy way it matters, but not because of the world. It matters because of you and what you are, and then that goes out and then becomes the world, and then it's so. Yeah.
Thank you. I want to get to our viewers. There are a couple comments that came up. So Mexican 444 says, I had no idea there was a CE5 application. I have to download that. What is it called? And it's called CE5 Contact. And I think it has 3 dots like a triangle. And then Zachary was saying, I have the CE5 app. It's great. And it's worked for me. Only anomalous objects in the starlit sky. But it's pretty amazing, especially how it comes about through synchronicities. And then Zachary says it's called CE5 Contact. If you search that, it'll come up. So those are comments. And Alan Benz says, greetings from the desert Southwest. He's one of our CFD state leaders for Arizona. And then greetings from Florida. Much love to all from BFOBL. All right. So I didn't want to neglect those. Now, what I'd like to do now is I have a trailer from the movie called A Greater Reality. Then I'm going to play. It's about 3 minutes long. But Melanie, do you want to share briefly what that movie's all about? I understand it's coming out in January of 2026, and it features you and others. What do you want to tell us about that?
It's the work that we did, the research with the Council of 8. And Ray Hernandez is a tax attorney, and he's the one that created this. The film crew that did it is the film crew that works for William Shatner from Star Trek. So it's a pretty important film to watch.
Okay. All right, here it is.
My name is Reinaldo Hernandez. I'm a tax attorney. I had zero interest in anything that was paranormal related. And then, holy shit, what the hell just happened? I knew that this was not a dream. It was very, very real. And I needed to find out what happened to me. I set out to interview the experiencers, PhD academics and medical doctors that had been researching all of these paranormal experiences.
I'm able to travel outside of my body on the astral plane, and I have done since I was 9 years old.
The first time I had an experience with the beings, I was about 5 years old.
I had a hunch that these orbs were something out of this world. Would have an out-of-body experience 3 or 4 times a month, and I've learned how to move, fly, walk through walls.
The elements of a near-death experience are separation of consciousness and out-of-body experience.
There were beings, spiritual beings swirling around me and bringing me peace.
I would say my near-death experience in many ways changed me completely.
We are saturated with intelligent life right here and right now.
I see some creatures in the room. The big head, the black eyes, the long fingers.
I was shown things that you just don't see in this world.
When I opened my eyes, there was Katie, this little girl spirit.
For me, all of this is under one rubric.
Consciousness includes the physical universe. It includes the cosmos. Everything we know about quantum physics and cosmology.
Consciousness is the most fundamental energy of the universe.
We share a collective consciousness.
I think that the brain is a projection of consciousness.
Everything ultimately evolves to the soul itself. This is just the physical container.
And it's only by bringing all these pieces together, both finding their commonalities and how they can each inform each other, that we can then see the big picture.
I set out on a quest to find out what happened to me. Began to realize that there are literally people all over the world having very similar experiences. Is there life after death? Do we live in a simulated reality? Is it possible that all of these paranormal experiences are somehow interrelated?
It's as if it was trying to tell us something. All of these are related. Now it's up to you to figure out how.
So I have the, let's see, Greater Reality. It's coming January 2026. And this is the website you can go to, agreaterrealityfilm.com. And actually, there's a book, a series of 5 books, is it? A Greater Reality series. And you can actually get the book. You could buy the book physically, but you can actually download the PDF. And you're in book 5, I believe, Dr. Barton. So those are some of these websites that you can go to. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Now there is another. Is there anything you want to say about it? Anything more that you'd like to say about it, Melanie?
I'll let people know when they tell me the premiere is, then I'll know when the release is going to be.
Okay, great. All right. So now that's not the only movie that's coming out. There is a movie called, and let me pull this up, The Age of Disclosure. And this movie is actually premiering on November 21st of this month. And the Citizens for Disclosure state leads, we are hosting a bunch of watch parties all over the country. Plus there are premieres in both New York City, LA, I believe, and DC, actually in theaters that will be happening that night. And I wanted to share, if you go to this website, https://ufos.pro/AOD-event, you will be able to sign up and register for the watch, and you can let New Paradigm Institute know how you would like to watch it, whether you can, like an RSVP is what the page is. So Derek is saying, so excited for this. Yeah, so we're very excited about the movie coming out because it's going to be really great. Now, I do want to give the audience another little question. Now that you've learned about experiencers and a little bit about the New Paradigm Institute. So what would you like to do? What are you most interested in doing next? Number 1, you can subscribe to the NPI New Paradigm Institute newsletter. Number 2, you can volunteer with Citizens for Disclosure like we are. You don't necessarily have to become a leader of a state, but just be part of our group as we kind of educate people, get the word out about NHI and this whole, field. Number 3, you can share this live stream with other friends and community. This live stream is live now, but it will be available on a replay as soon as it's done. Number 4, you can learn more about New Paradigm Institute before joining. Or number 5, you're going to watch the Age of Disclosure documentary. So go ahead and put that in the comments. Let's see, what do we have here? We've got BFOBL saying, yes, I'm looking forward to this one. Okay, so yeah, you guys can comment. So, and to reach any of our state leaders here, I'm going to put up the website. So if you want to reach out to Tom, if you live in North Carolina at citizensfordisclosure.com is the email there where you can get involved with Citizens for Disclosure. Then there's New York at citizensfordisclosure.com, which Sean is one of the co-leaders along with Bruce Davis. And then Florida at citizensfordisclosure.com, where you can reach either Melody or myself. We're both the co-leads for Florida. So, and if you're in any other state or just want to learn more, newparadigminstitute.org is the website to check out. So, panelists, I'd like to ask you, do you have any final thoughts before we close our episode tonight?
I do. That is the retreat that we're doing December 5th through the 7th at my house in Tallahassee, Florida. We will be channeling Kevin Briggs, channeling Ort. So that will be on Zoom for anybody that signs up to be a member of Citizens at no cost. So you won't want to miss that.
Yes, definitely. And BFOBL says 2 and 5, I would say for me. So 5 is watching the disclosure documentary, and I forget what 2 is. I'll have to wait till this comes around again to say what 2 is. Subscribe to the newsletter, and 2 is volunteer with Citizens for Disclosure. So that's great. And volunteering, there's many different aspects. There's from emailing and calling legislators about any UAP legislation that's happening, to education and promoting the movie, this Age of Disclosure movie, which a lot of people are doing watch parties. You can have watch parties at your house and just invite your family and neighbors, or attend one. So Derek is saying definitely number 5, which is the Age of Disclosure movie. All right, we are wrapping it up. I know it's been a little longer than usual. We're just over an hour, but I want to see if there's any final thoughts from our panelists.
I would just say, sorry, Sean, I'll go quick. And that is, when we talk about disclosure, I always think of it as, there's the disclosure of technology, of crash retrievals. But I think there's a greater disclosure, and that is that there's more out there than I think we realize at times. The disclosure, or the understanding that we're all connected, that we're all spirits, entities on a path, and we all have the power to brighten someone's day. Like Sean said, at the grocery store, is probably one of the most important things we all can do. So thanks, everyone.
Yeah, I'm briefly going to say that I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast that the idea of disclosure has never been super important to me because, I was exposed to the phenomenon at such an early age. However, disclosing myself was a whole nother matter, right? Presenting yourself as a spiritual being, in a society that doesn't yet recognize that very well, is also important. It's important to affirm your own truth, your own reality, and not be afraid to disclose yourself and say, you know what, things get weird, and I'm okay with that.
Melanie, anything?
No, I think they've covered it all. Thank you.
Okay. So BFOBL says, indeed, it's about the spiritual development of our race. All right, my friends. Well, I want to thank you to my panelists for sharing, for disclosing yourselves and letting us know what you've been going through and in this. And, you know, I know that I do want to become an experiencer myself. And before I do that, I just want to let you know when the next disclosure dialogue will happen. It will be on December 10th. It's a Wednesday at 8 o'clock as this. And I don't have a specific topic yet, but we will have one. But just mark that date if you want to watch next month's disclosure dialogue. And I really want to thank Tom and Dr. Melanie and Sean for courageously sharing your experiences. And to our viewers, so if tonight's conversation moved you, please share this broadcast and help spread the wave of citizen-led disclosure. So thank you for being part of this movement, and together we are the disclosure. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.